Collecting is good, but it can be better. In this video, I want to talk about 5 ways that you can enhance your experience of collecting hot toys and other 6-scale figures. These are things that I've started doing because I noticed the focus of my collecting was more on what's coming next rather than enjoying everything that I have. And I know this isn't something that's just unique to me. I've been chatting to a few collectors recently who also feel a little bit the same way, which is why I thought I'd put together this video just to talk about some of the things that I've been doing to make the most of my collecting experience. And with all that said, let's get into it. My first tip is to make unboxing an experience. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out. When I received my InArt Joker, it was a really expensive piece that I didn't want to just unbox and be done with. So I established this process of making unboxing an experience, and it's something that I've followed through ever since with other figures that I've received. So what do I mean by that? Here's some of the things that I did. With the InArt Joker, I got the rooted 2-pack, it came with the gel cell diorama, and I really took my time over the course of the week unboxing that figure. I first looked at the accessories, the next day I brought out the gel cell diorama, I then brought out each figure individually on different days, I put them together, I posed them, I took some photos. I really stretched it out over the course of a week, and to be honest, that was a really enjoyable process. I didn't want to be looking at it for 10-15 minutes, chucking it in the cabinet and then be thinking, oh, okay, what's the next figure to get? So I found that with other figures I've gotten, I've really tried to be mindful with taking a little bit more time to unbox, to enjoy the figure. The unboxing experience doesn't have to be limited to the physical unboxing of the figure. Another thing I like to do is actually go back and watch figure reviews. Often with things like hot toys, there can be a 3 to 6 month delay in their release from Hong Kong to when they finally arrive in Australia. So while I do watch the reviews when the figures drop in Hong Kong and people start getting them, by the time I'm getting them here in Australia, I might not remember all of the details that people might have shared in the reviews, and the reviewers do a great job in sharing tips about articulation or things to keep an eye out for. So when I know my figure's about to arrive, I revisit some of my favourite reviewers on YouTube, I rewatch those reviews, it refreshes my memory about the figure, and it also gives me a little bit of inspiration as to how I might want to pose that figure. And speaking about how you want to pose your figure, I also really enjoy revisiting the source material when a figure arrives. I recently picked up the Hot Toys Yelena, so I rewatched the Black Widow movie, and that was a great way to remind myself of the way that character moves, what weapons that she uses more than others, and just started getting my mind going as to thinking what kind of poses could I use for Yelena in my display. So following some of these steps means that unboxing for me has gone from, okay, I've got the figure, I've unboxed it, I've looked at it, I've chucked it in my display, to something that takes a longer period of time, and it makes me enjoy and appreciate that figure a little bit more. My second tip is to repose your figures to renew your enthusiasm. As I said before, sometimes we just take what we already have in our collections for granted. Revisiting figures that you've had for a while and reposing them is a really great way to renew your enthusiasm for that figure. As I said before, sometimes we take for granted the things we already have in our collection, and I think coming back and reposing those figures is a great way to renew your enthusiasm for a figure and a character that you probably love. During this past year, this is something I've really been focused on, looking at my display, and in particular looking at the figures that I haven't really posed or done a lot with for a while, taking them out, re-looking at them, setting them up in new poses. And it's quite interesting because I feel like whenever I do this, whenever I then come to look at my display, my eye then goes to the figure that I've been working on most recently. And through that process, I've really enjoyed doing things like reposing individual figures or reconsidering entire displays. I recently reorganized my entire Dark Knight cabinet, and I absolutely love it. And it was a cabinet that had probably been pretty static in the way I had it set up for a long amount of time. So when I'd come and look at my display, it wasn't the first thing I looked at. Whereas as soon as I took that time to rearrange my collection, it just then became the thing I wanted to look at first whenever I came into the room. So taking that time to repose what you already have really can renew your appreciation and love of that figure and character. Another cool thing to do, which I never would have thought of, is actually posing figures with other collectors. I joined the Iron Legion, which is the channel membership for Iron Logan. And one of the perks for that is a monthly pose and chill session. And at first I was a bit like, oh, really? We're just going to sit around and pose figures? But it is just such a fun process. Like, I can't even describe how much I enjoy those sessions. I've gotten to get some great posing tips from different collectors, and that monthly catch up actually forces me to look at my display and go, right, what is standing in museum pose? What is just not doing the character justice? And that in itself has been a really great process, because as I mentioned before, it's made me really look at characters that have just been stood there in museum pose for the longest time and bring them to life. And sometimes, I know for me, I'm not the strongest poser, so getting that feedback and input from people like Iron Logan or Figure Posing Channel, I've also learnt so much more about posing, and it's made me want to pose even more. The more I've done it, I think I'm improving. And that just makes me go, right, what else can I do? So I don't just wait for those monthly posing sessions. I'm regularly looking at my display going, right, from what I've learnt from other collectors, what do I think I can tweak with my figures? And yeah, it's just this process that is just making me really reinvigorated with all the figures that I have. And in addition to those monthly hangout posing sessions, I've also then done some one-on-one posing sessions with Anthony from Figure Posing Channel. And that's been invaluable to me. There's certain characters that I've struggled with. You may have seen on his channel, we did a one-on-one posing session with Nebula. I couldn't quite get the hips right on that walking pose, and Anthony was able to talk me through it. And it was just, I was so happy because I got the pose that I wanted. I got to hang out with a collector in the Netherlands. I'm in Australia. Like, that's just crazy to me, the fact that we can have these connections online, and it's just adding another level of enjoyment to my ownership of a figure, being able to pose it up with a fellow collector. And even the process of posing with Anthony's been so interesting. Like a lot of collectors, he has space limitations, so a lot of his figures are actually in storage. And he actually made the comment to me after we posed up Nebula. He was like, you're not helping with my space issues because I have to bring these figures out of storage to help you pose them. And then I don't want to put them back into storage because I love the pose and I love what we've done with them. So it even shows that for someone who's got a character that is in storage, it's not even been on display, that process of sitting down and posing it and hanging out with another collector really does enhance your enjoyment of that figure. So I would really recommend get out, get posing, and if you can join some of these groups or get posing with other collectors, it really is a fun thing to do. My third tip is to review your display and setup. And by this, I don't just mean reposing figures. Take a look at your display and ask yourself, are you making the most of the space that you have? For me, I use a lot of vertical risers in my display, as this allows me to fit more figures in, but also ensure that everything is visible. Lighting. Do you have lighting in your cabinet? Are you happy with the lighting that you have? Is this something that you could improve on? Backdrops and dioramas, are these something that you like, that you think would enrich your display? The display you see behind me, these two main cabinets, I actually picked these up on Facebook Marketplace, and they were pretty bare bones when I got them. They didn't have any of the lighting or the backing that you see, and this is the process that I've been through. I spent some time to research lighting to work out what I want. I installed the lighting. Once I did that, I realized actually I would like to have a backdrop to it so you can't see the wall behind the cabinets. Also, being secondhand, they did have a couple of scratches, and applying that black vinyl to the backing and the shelves has covered them all up and made them look like brand new cabinets. So it took me a while, but after picking up those pretty basic cabinets, I've been able to evolve them into a display that I'm really happy with and I think looks great. I get comments on them all the time, and to be honest, that makes me really happy as well when other people look at my display and say they look pretty good. So making sure that you're putting as much effort into what you're displaying your figures in, I think makes such a difference. We spend so much money on hot toys and other collectibles, so make sure that you are presenting them in the best way possible. My fourth tip, which I've kind of touched on in other parts of this video, is that collecting is better with friends. And I don't just mean Facebook groups, I mean finding your specific tribe of fellow collectors that share the same interests as you, whether that's IPs, whether that's posing, whether that's a particular character or manufacturer. I think finding your own subset of friends within the broader collecting community can definitely enrich your enjoyment of collecting figures. For me, my friends and family, they don't really understand why I collect these things, so finding friends online that I can share my excitement and enthusiasm over different figures or characters has just made the experience all the more better. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse than unboxing a character and being like, oh, cool, but who can I discuss this with? And that's what is great about online communities. But as I said, I really like creating my own subset of friends through collecting. I actually found that when I set up my Instagram account about 18 months ago, that was a really great way to, I guess, find other collectors that enjoyed the same characters that I do. When you're in a Facebook group, you're going to see posts from everyone. They might be sharing things that you're not interested in. And for whatever reason, some people can't just scroll on by. And I say that as someone I've mentioned many times on this channel, I really like Captain Marvel. And for some reason, there's people that if I ever post something of Captain Marvel, they want to question, why do you like that movie? Why do you like that character? Captain Karen. And I just am not really interested in having people dampening my enthusiasm for certain characters that I really like. So I love the fact that, particularly through creating that Instagram account, I now know that when I get certain figures, there's individual collectors or smaller groups that I can go to post about that figure, and I know that they're going to share my enthusiasm and just be really supportive collector friends, which I think is just the best way to be, really. As a side note, if you're in these bigger groups, seriously, just scroll on by. If the figure someone's posting is not for you, don't comment. I just don't see why you would do that. Maybe that's just me, but I just think collecting is better with friends. Find your specific friends online. It's just going to make it so much better. I think, in all honesty, for me, joining the Iron Legion, being part of that little community and Facebook group has been really great. I've met collectors that I'd seen through groups but hadn't really conversed with one-on-one, form those friendships. It's been a really great experience. So if you've got the means to do that, absolutely. But as I said, if not, maybe hop on something like Instagram where it's more a direct following relationship, and that will help you find collectors that share the same specific interests that you have in collecting. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you won't be shocked to hear that my 5th tip is to get kit bashing. Kit bashing is a process that I really enjoy. I always think it's really fun to have a project that will occupy your time. You're not just focused on buying a whole figure, you're taking parts and pieces and accessories that you've already got and turning it into something completely new. It's a really enjoyable and rewarding process, and I love creating new characters or different looks for characters that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise have if I haven't kit bashed them. It's a rewarding process, and it's a great way to either create new characters or a different look for a character that you really love. There's a lot of great resources out there for kit bashing. In particular, check out the Kit Bash Kitchen Facebook group. There's a lot of people in there that are really generous with their information. I've also done a video which is a bit of an introduction to kit bashing. It talks about some of the different methods that you can follow to kit bash a figure. I also share some of the websites that I use to acquire different parts and pieces that I need. So if you're wanting something that's a bit of a project and that will help you create something really unique in your display, and I think that enhances your collecting experience as well. When you can create something that not everyone has, I think that's a really enjoyable part of the hobby, because when I look at other people's collections, the things that jump out to me are the things I haven't seen 100 times in everybody else's display. So if you're interested in kit bashing, I will leave the link to my video in the description. Check that out. Check out Kit Bash Kitchen. Get kit bashing. I really think it's a fun way of enhancing your collecting experience, and I don't think enough collectors do it. Don't let those parts and pieces go to waste. Make sure you're using them in the best way that you can. So those are the 5 ways I've been trying to enhance my collecting experience, and I have to say they've been really effective for me. If you've been doing something different, I'd love to know what you've been doing to enhance your experience. Let me know in the comments below. And if you've made it this far and you like what you see in this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons to support my channel. I'm still really new to creating content here on YouTube, so I'm also open to any constructive feedback that you have as to how I can make these videos better.